Oh, well, hello there. Wonderful summer we're having. You caught me just sitting down to a refreshing drink in the middle of my beautiful island getaway. You know, even during these times where everything is absolutely normal, we're getting along with our neighbors, and we feel in complete control of our lives, it still feels good to step back, take some alone time, and a little bit of peaceful relaxation. It reminds me a little bit of one of my favorite games. Yes, yes. I'm, of course, speaking of Animal Crossing. In fact, since you're here, you might as well kick back and relax with me. I was about to start a little DIY project where I'll be attempting to make the illustrious Tom Nook out of socks. Doesn't that sound fun? To create our money-loving trash mammal, I've got some reddish-brown socks. I got 2 pairs of these online from Urban Outfitters. His leaf print shirt I needed to order from Redbubble, and I'm really thankful to Toffee Bee for having this design available. I've got this felt just for the little patch that sits on Tom Nook's pocket. A little bit of pink sock for his ears, an off-white shirt to use for his shorts, and then we have some dark brown markers to paint on all the dark patches for Tom's fur. Then we have stuffing, more than this, obviously. A chopstick for when I need to work with small pieces, needle, thread, buttons, scissors, a bin for scrap. Just a peaceful project day during a period where nothing terrible or plague-like is happening. So let's buckle down and have a beautiful time as friends. Shall we? I usually like to start with the head. I'll take the toe of one sock and cut right around here. I made some markings on the toe just to test out colors. That's what those dots are. Take some stuffing and stuff it right up. At the beginning and end of every stitch, it's good to anchor the thread by looping it through itself a couple of times. Then we can close it from the outside using the ladder stitch. The ladder stitch I use a lot for closing seams from the outside, and with a stretchy material like socks, you can get a really clean seam from it. Since you might have a lot of time right now, I've got other videos where I show tutorials on my stitches. I'm not really suggesting anything, but I mean, what else is going on? And I'll cut just above the heel of the sock to get our body. Cut it into a little oval shape. And since we don't have a closed end like with the head, I'm going to turn it inside out and close one side using the back stitch. The back stitch will really lock the edges together. And with that set, we can create the arms and legs. The arms are pretty straightforward. We can take the toe of one other sock and just cut that down the middle. Turn each inside out and backstitch them all the way to the tip of the toe. The toe is going to be our hand. And then the legs are slightly different. I'll basically be making tubes which are open on both ends, and I'm cutting them just a bit thinner than the arms so that we can cut a small toe on the end. Just a little bevel. And so on the foot side, I'll cut some circles out of the scrap. And the circles will get sewn on, again, inside out. And after we turn all of them right side out again, we can stuff them all up. Then each limb can get attached to the body with the ladder stitch. We'll take care to make sure they're symmetrical so we don't run into problems later on. Speaking of problems, I started getting the feeling that maybe I made the head too small for the body, so checking right now, and yes, it is too small. A little upsetting.
Wish there was something I could do about that, but the only thing I can do is just make a new head. It's just too small. It's too dang small. I'm glad that I decided to buy 2 pairs of socks, because I'll need a 3rd sock to get the requisite material for my new, larger head. Instead of the toe, we'll use the side of the sock, and that way we can get a larger shape. Sew that right up like we did the body. I close the whole piece up and then cut a hole to flip it and stuff it. We don't need to worry about this hole because Tom Nook's nose is going to get stitched right over it. Just gonna plug that hole right up. The heel of the sock has the right hook shape that Tom's nose has. How convenient. And after sewing that up, here is where the chopsticks come in handy. Just push the point of that nose right out. Stitch that on. Looks great so far. I'm gonna take some more scrap for the ears, which are ovals that are kinda heavy on the bottom. A pair of ovals cut from the pink scrap will complete the look. That little detail can get sewn on with the ladder stitch, and then the ears can get sewn to the top of the head with the ladder stitch. And aren't we shaping up nicely? The only other part of the body to build is the tail. Since we're plugging along so well, we might as well take a minute to have some more refreshment. Alright, in the midst of my becoming refreshed, I seem to have shifted around everything on my desk, and also my tail is sewn and stuffed without any recollection of having done so. But let's not concern ourselves with that. Let's just get back to work by painting up our darkened raccoon features. These are Prismacolor markers that I've had for several years. They're great for dyeing small pieces of fabric. I've used cheaper markers like Artist's Loft and had just about the same effect, so there's no reason to spend a fortune. The lighter brown helps make a small blend between the dark brown and the base color of the sock. How do you like that?
Now, let's move on to another very important step, where we'll be stitching up Tom Nook's clothes. We don't want that little raccoon running around naked, do we? Ha! So this...
Where am I? What's happening? What was I talking about? Where am I? I'm sorry.
These next few steps are going to take a while, but I'm not worried. In fact, I feel as though I have all the time in the world.
Now, I have to confess I'm not much of a seamster, so to make Tom Nook's clothes, I'm gonna need a little reference. So the essential pieces of a button-up shirt are the collar, then 2 sides for the front, 1 for the back, and a piece for each sleeve. In theory, very easy to do. Let's grab our leaf sock, which I realize now is not the color scheme that Tom Nook has on his shirt. This color scheme is actually the one on Timmy and Tommy's Hawaiian shirts, but I'm not gonna make myself feel like an idiot over it or anything. It's adjacent enough. We need both socks for this, one cut down a single side and another cut down both sides. Then we've got to size out the armholes, slightly below the top of the rectangles. And then we'll stitch the long sides together. Don't stitch the holes together, just the straight portions. Then we'll take some more sock and cut the sleeves, tapering on the end which touches the shoulder. And then with the shirt turned inside out, we'll push the sleeves through so the good sides face each other, and backstitch baby. Let's fold the edges over and sew them up. Normally on clothing you'll have a lot of overage, called a seam allowance, but I've just got tiny ones here. And the rest of my sock is going towards this collar. The good side of the collar gets sewn facing away from the good side of the rest of the shirt, so when we fold it over, it matches. And a bit of scrap will make the tiny pocket, then a tiny circle of felt makes the patch, which I colored using a pen, and stitched to the shirt. I did a terrible job stitching it to the shirt, actually, so I'll probably fix that later. But I'm eager, you know? I'm eager to move on to his second article of clothing, the shorts. I've never made shorts before either. My intuition is that I only need 4 pieces, 2 for the front and 2 for the back. Cutting them long ways will make a little bell shape towards the top a bit to accommodate the seat of the shorts. They look good so far, so let's just stitch them together and see what happens. We want to stitch the top part, the crotch and the butt, between the left and right sides, but the legs we want to stitch between the front and back sides, so in that regard, this can be a little complicated. And when I go to put the shorts on Tom Nook's little raccoon body, I can see that they just don't fit. I mean, they could fit, but those are some pretty frumpy shorts, so I'm just gonna have to start over. And with shorts take 2, I must have been feeling myself a little bit because I added a pair of pockets and a fly, things that no one will see, but who cares? You and I know they exist, and that's good enough for me. I'm not going to bother with belt loops though, mostly because I think it will make the shirt look funny on the bottom. Now is the time where all the parts can finally come together. Stitching down the shirt so it doesn't move around. Tacking down the shirt collar, which is mostly to keep the edges concealed. And then let's get those buttons sewn on. Of course, these are only for aesthetic. And we didn't forget about the tail. This is the time where we can finally join that to the body. The thing I often save for last is attaching the eyes. And for that, I'll be using 2 big white buttons under 2 blue buttons. Of course, they're round, and Tom Nook has oval eyes, but oval buttons aren't very common, so we're just gonna play the hand we're dealt. Without eyelids, he looks a little tweaked out. What have you seen, Tom Nook? What did they tell you? Some scrap from the brown sock will make him look much more like his tired, capitalist self. Using a bit of brown thread, we'll ladder stitch those right over top. Having these in 3 layers helps to create some charming dimension that'll really make him stand out. And there we go! Look at this handsome gentleman! Give us a spin, All the little details invoke a special feeling that you just can't find in a store-bought doll. Yes, yes. Well, what a day it has been, hasn't it? I wonder what time it is. It must be close to dinner. Oh my god. No. There must be some mistake. It was May when I started. How did this happen? No, that's impossible. It can't. How did this happen? How did this happen? I've been here for months! It's October! What's happening? How did this happen?
Where'd that raccoon go? He said he was gonna give me a new roof. I think I gotta figure out what's going on with my life. I think I'm the president of Animal Land. O'Hare said he was gonna buy my air conditioner. He wanted to give me a poncho. Y'all see that thing in the corner? It's kind of weird. Get out of there.